Nearly half of all Americans couldn't survive a single $1,000 emergency without borrowing money. One car repair, one unexpected bill, one appliance breaking at the wrong time, and they'd be on the phone with their credit card company or asking family for help. And here's the part that stings. Most of them already know what they're supposed to do. Save 3 to 6 months of expenses. Build an emergency fund. Everybody's heard it. But knowing and doing are completely different things. And the real reason people don't act isn't laziness. It's that nobody has actually explained what cash really does for you. Today, I'm going to show you why having cash saved up isn't just about emergencies. It changes the way you think, the way you negotiate, and the decisions you make in every single area of your life. Let's get into it. Researchers from Princeton and Harvard spent years studying what financial stress does to the human brain. Their findings were honestly alarming. Financial anxiety doesn't just make you worried, it actually shrinks your cognitive bandwidth. When your mind is constantly running calculations, can I afford this? Which bill comes first? What happens if something goes wrong? There's less mental energy left for everything else. Strategic thinking, long-term planning, even basic problem-solving becomes harder. The researchers called it tunneling. Your focus collapses onto the immediate problem in front of you, and everything outside that tunnel disappears. The promotion you should be chasing, the health checkup you keep putting off, the investment you've been meaning to start. All of it gets drowned out by the noise of just trying to get through the month. This isn't about character. It's a documented, measurable effect that financial pressure has on the brain. Now imagine the opposite. You've got 6 months of expenses sitting in a high-yield savings account. You know exactly where it is. You know you could access it within a few days. That knowledge follows you everywhere. To your job, to negotiations, to every decision you make. That cushion frees up mental space. And what you do with that space can completely change your life. The average time it takes to find a new job in the US right now is around 23 weeks. 6 months. And that's the average. People in specialized fields, or older workers, or people switching industries often take longer. Without savings, that statistic becomes a trap. You stay in jobs that drain you. You tolerate management that undermines you. You accept below-market salaries because the thought of going without a paycheck is scarier than being underpaid. Think about 2 people in the exact same role, at the exact same company, with the exact same skills. One has 8 months of savings. The other is living paycheck to paycheck. When annual reviews come around, both of them ask for raises. The person with savings can slow it down. They can push back. They can reference market rates, ask for a follow-up meeting, and if the company says no, they can actually start job searching without panicking. They can wait for the right opportunity. The person without savings is negotiating with a gun to their own head. Every ask feels dangerous. They settle faster, accept less, and move on, telling themselves it's fine. Over a 10-year career, that difference in negotiating confidence, same skills, same experience, can easily add up to 6 figures. And here's the quiet part. You might never actually quit. The point is that you could. And knowing that changes everything about how you carry yourself at work. Researchers at UC San Diego analyzed millions of real estate transactions and found that all-cash home buyers pay on average 10% less than buyers who need financing. In 2025, that discount has grown even further. On a $410,000 home, roughly the U.S. median, a 9% discount is nearly $37,000 in savings. Not because they got lucky, because sellers will take less money in exchange for certainty. Mortgage deals fall through 5 to 6% of the time. Cash doesn't. Now most people can't pay cash for a house, but the principle applies everywhere. When your car breaks down, cash lets you buy from a private seller. You're not desperate for whatever financing the dealership is offering. When you're renting an apartment, the landlord notices when you offer to pay several months up front. When you're hiring a contractor, cash sometimes unlocks pricing you'd never see otherwise. Cash is leverage, and it compounds across hundreds of small interactions throughout your entire life. Here's something economists talk about that almost nobody else does: the poverty premium. It's the hidden surcharge that people without savings pay, constantly, on almost everything. You can't buy in bulk when things go on sale, so you pay more per unit every single week. You pay monthly insurance premiums instead of annual ones, which typically cost 5 to 15% more. You can't do preventive car maintenance, so small problems become emergency repairs at emergency prices. You can't shop around because time pressure dominates every decision. You need the thing now. You even miss out on free money, like not being able to contribute enough to your 401k to get the full employer match because you can't absorb the cash flow change. Add all of this up, and the annual cost of not having savings can easily reach thousands of dollars. The less money you have, the more expensive life becomes. Cash reserves don't just protect against emergencies. They stop the daily bleeding that most people don't even realize is happening. There's another side to this that almost never gets talked about. Cash isn't just armor against bad things. It's the ability to say yes when something good shows up. And good things don't show up on a convenient schedule. The stock market dropped 30% in early 2020. People with cash were buying at historic discounts. 2 years later, those same investments had recovered, and then some. Most people watched from the sidelines because they had nothing to deploy. A friend offers you a chance to invest in their business on favorable terms. The numbers make sense. You can't participate because you have nothing available. A piece of real estate comes on the market below value because the seller needs to close fast. You can't move quickly enough. Someone else gets it. These moments happen throughout life. For people without savings, they're frustrations. For people with savings, they're options. Over a lifetime, the gap between those two experiences is enormous. Here's the piece that most financial content completely misses. Cash doesn't just give you leverage in explicit negotiations. It gives you the ability to think clearly about every decision, including the ones where nobody is sitting across the table from you. Should you go back to school? Without savings, the upfront cost feels impossible, and the long-term benefit barely registers. Should you leave a relationship that isn't working? Financial entanglement makes it harder than it should be. Should you move cities for a better opportunity? The logistics become paralyzing when there's no cushion between your old life and your new one. In each of these cases, the right decision gets buried under financial fear. You make choices based on short-term constraints, not long-term life quality. And over time, those distorted decisions compound into a life that feels smaller than it should. Cash removes the fear from the equation. It lets you evaluate your life based on what actually matters, not what you can afford to risk right now. So how do you build this cushion? Start with a specific number. Calculate your actual monthly expenses: rent, food, utilities, transportation, insurance, minimum debt payments. Multiply by 3. That's your first goal. 6 months comes later. Automate it. Set up a recurring transfer to savings on the same day your paycheck hits. The amount matters less than the consistency. $200 a month becomes $2,400 a year. $500 a month becomes $6,000. It adds up faster than you expect when it happens automatically. Put it somewhere it earns money. High-yield savings accounts are currently paying around 4 to 5% annually, more than 10 times the national average. On $20,000, that's $800 to $1,000 in interest every year, instead of $78. The money is still liquid, still accessible, still FDIC insured. You're just getting paid to hold it. Make it slightly inconvenient to touch. Keep it in a separate bank from your checking account with no linked debit card. When you want the money, you can get it. But you have to initiate a transfer and wait a day or two. That small delay stops most impulsive withdrawals before they happen. And define what counts as a real emergency. A genuine emergency threatens your health, your housing, or your employment. A sale on something you want is not an emergency. Being stressed is not an emergency. Think of it in 3 stages. First, stop the bleeding. Get $1,000 to $2,000 in accessible cash. This alone breaks the cycle of overdraft fees, credit card emergencies, and payday loans. For roughly half of Americans, reaching this point would already be a major improvement. Second, build real breathing room. Grow that to 3 months of expenses. At this level, a job loss is stressful, but not catastrophic. A medical bill is manageable. You've bought yourself time to respond instead of just react. Third, reach genuine security. 6 months or more. This is where the psychology truly shifts. You stop operating from scarcity. You start making decisions from a position of strength. The mental energy you used to spend on financial anxiety gets redirected toward actually building the life you want. Some people will tell you, cash sitting in a savings account is lazy money. Invest it. Get the higher returns. They're right about the math. Invested money outperforms savings accounts over long periods. But this argument misses the point entirely. Your emergency fund is not an investment. Its job isn't to maximize returns. Its job is to be stable, accessible, and there when you need it. Markets can drop 30% in weeks. We saw it happen. If your emergency fund is invested and your income disappears at the same time, you're selling at the worst possible moment. Your safety net is suddenly worth 30% less than you planned for. Cash is different. The number in your account today is the number that's there tomorrow. Think of it this way. You don't ask your home's foundation to generate investment returns. You ask it to hold the structure up. Once your emergency fund is fully built, absolutely put additional savings into investments. But the cushion comes first. It's the foundation that makes every other financial risk possible. The cost of not having cash is almost never one big dramatic moment. It's an accumulation of compromises. Staying in the wrong job, accepting the first offer, skipping the doctor because the copay feels like too much this month, putting the emergency on a credit card and paying 22% interest for years after. Each one feels small on its own. Together, they shape a trajectory. 5 years later, you're behind. In income, in health, in career, in life. And you can trace almost every gap back to a moment where financial fear drove the decision. Cash reserves break that pattern. They give you the space to make decisions based on what's actually right, not what's immediately cheapest. They let you invest in yourself, negotiate with confidence, take calculated risks, and recover without panic when things go sideways. The emergency fund isn't just protection against disaster. It's permission to live strategically instead of defensively. Start today. Calculate your expenses. Set your target. Automate the savings. Protect it. Then pay attention to what happens, to your thinking, your negotiations, your decisions. At some point during this process, different for everyone, you'll realize something has shifted. You've stopped operating from fear. You've started operating from choice. That shift is worth more than any emergency the fund will ever cover.